'Tis the old ship of Zion. 'Tis the old ship of Zion. 'Tis the old ship of Zion. Get on board. Get on board. I was lost in sin and sorrow on an island life's dark sea. When I saw far in the distance there a ship it seemed to be, then I saw the captain beckon, and he called out loud and free, I have come, my child, to save you. Step on board and follow me. There's no danger in the water. There's no danger in the water. There's no danger in the water. Get on board. Get on board.
All right. Good evening, YouTube, Facebook. It's great to see everybody. Jeff Arrington here again, broadcasting to you live from the community of Hiltons in Scott County, Virginia. We're here tonight with a great show. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I come with this with great anticipation tonight. Scott County VA Gun Owners Group has the special honor tonight of hosting a very, very special guest. We are going to be tonight hosting the candidate for U.S. Senate and double Purple Heart recipient Daniel Gade. I'm going to go ahead and pull him on here so you can see as I give a brief introduction here of Daniel. So Daniel's online.
Hey, everybody.
Daniel is a West Point graduate. He graduated with a BS in environmental in 1997. Again, I mentioned he is a double Purple Heart recipient. And we were just talking actually before the show, and he has a pretty cool story update for us. But Daniel also is an Ironman 70.3 completion Ironman. I mean, from 2010, guys, this was after his amputation that resulted from one of his injuries that he received in Ramadi in 2005. He retired as a lieutenant colonel in 2017, and he has served under the administration of George Bush, President Obama, and President Trump. So we are truly honored to have him on here tonight. Guys, he's a true American patriot, a true American hero. And Daniel, I just want to say it's just a real honor to have us. So I gave a brief introduction. I'll let you say a few words about yourself now.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be on with you guys. This is my first time on this format, so I hope I do okay. Like Jeff said, I'm proud to be with you. I'm a 25-year Army veteran, and I'm now running for United States Senate against Mark Warner. And I know that he's been in politics a long time. He's a swamp creature, and I'm a servant. You know, all I've ever done is serve other people, and so I'm excited to be your servant. And actually, if you mark your calendars, I want to give you a couple of things to think about. I'm coming to Scott County on the 22nd of March in the evening. We're going to have a little rally at 5 p.m. And I don't know precisely where the location is, so you're just going to have to check with Jeff's Facebook for that, but we'll get you updated on that. I'm coming to Scott County. I'm excited about that. I'm going to Lee County earlier in the day, so that'll be fun too. So I love Southwest. I love you guys. I'm thrilled to be with you tonight.
Well, and Daniel, I think that's what's so exciting to have you here, because just to be completely honest with you, a lot of the attention that we get here in Southwest Virginia is really from just local politics. A lot of folks in the D.C. area and in the Richmond area, they think that Southwest Virginia ends about 100 miles north of here. So that's why I think it's a really special honor to have you here. You truly in the heart of Southwest Virginia. And on that March 22nd, so DeLynn is also typing online. So I know you're working and your contacts are working with DeLynn. She's one of our administrators.
Yeah, love her.
I don't know if we've nailed down the exact venue for that event on the 22nd, but if she has, she'll put that in the comments. And we will certainly have it on our Facebook group on Virginia, Scott County VA Gun Owners Group. So a lot more information about that to come.
Great.
It truly is a true honor to have you here. I've been really looking forward to this show. We've heard a lot of good things about you. And again, just having you on the show to sit around the fire with us and have a chat is something we've really been looking forward to. So we appreciate you taking time.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
Okay, so let's just jump right into it if you don't care, and some of the topics. Obviously, as a group called Scott County VA Gun Owners, the Second Amendment is something that's very important to us. Just today for our viewers, I kind of gave them a quick update about this earlier today, but this morning we actually attended our Scott County Board of Supervisors meeting. Daniel, I'm not sure if you're familiar with, in Virginia, there's a Senate Bill 35 and a House Bill 421. These two bills deal with giving localities, the way it's in the title, it says it gives localities the ability to control gun laws in their jurisdiction. But when you read into the details of that, all it really gives them the authority to do is actually create gun-free zones on streets, sidewalks, things along those lines. So we're actually working with our board to try to get an ordinance in place where they said that they will not do that, because that's an infringement on our Second Amendment rights. So along that and some other lines, how do you feel about the Second Amendment?
Yeah, that's right. Look, so I've been out front on the Second Amendment sanctuary movement, and so let me back up a little bit. I'm a gun owner. I'm a concealed carry permit holder. I have used and appreciated guns for a long time. But this Second Amendment movement, the Second Amendment sanctuary movement, and the movement you're talking about at the Board of Supervisors today with all the work you guys are doing, this isn't about guns. It's not about guns. It's not. This is about individual liberty and about whether or not we're going to allow government to come into our lives and take away our God-given rights to protect ourselves. You know, it's as simple as this. If you walk up to your dog right now and you grab him by the hind leg and you pull on his leg, he's going to turn around and bite you. Why? Because God gave him the right to defend himself. And similarly, God gave us the right to defend ourselves from bad people and also from tyrannical government. And the purpose of the Second Amendment is to keep government from infringing on our rights. It's nothing more than that. They don't give us the right to have guns. So I'm, I've been out front on this. I'm happy to be in this movement with you guys. And actually, sneak peek, because you guys are my friends and you can start socializing this around to everybody. Starting on the 15th of March on my Facebook page, which is @Gade4Virginia. I hope you'll tag it for me in the comments, Dylan. We are going to be raffling off a Colt 1911 pistol, and all you got to do to enter the raffle is to donate on my website. Just $25 enters you into the raffle, and it's a $1,000 pistol. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm proud to be with you guys on the Second Amendment.
That's excellent. So just touching on a few things, I know you mentioned earlier that you've always had a servant's heart. I can say that when you mentioned the Second Amendment sanctuary status, so I know we didn't get a chance to talk a whole lot before the show, but my background is just a citizen. I live on a farm. I work at a little manufacturing company. And when we were pushing forward with the Second Amendment sanctuary status, that's actually how I became introduced to the other administrators in this group. When I've got my Bible here with me right now, I went and actually spoke at that particular Board of Supervisors meeting, and that just kind of, brought us into the whole fray here. We've since then launched this YouTube page, reaching out to members of our community. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback too. So we're certainly glad to hear about that. I'm looking forward. You said it was on the 15th of March. Is that when it starts? Yeah,
we're gonna launch that on the 15th, and I'll make sure so you can help push it out on Facebook. But it's gonna be awesome. It's a great gun. So I hope that one of your guys in Scott County will win it. I can't put my thumb on the scale for you, but I hope somebody out there will win that gun for me.
Absolutely. Well, and along those same lines, we're actually building up for a raffle. Well, not a raffle. We're going to be doing a giveaway here in Scott County as well. We're getting an AR-15 that we hope to actually give away at probably one of our next team meetings. It may actually be, we've not nailed it all down, but I guess another sneak peek, it may end up occurring on the 22nd when you come down. We may end up giving it away if we can sell all the tickets that day. So that's
awesome. Great.
Looking forward to that as well. So we're certainly thinking along the same lines. just out of curiosity, you mentioned there, of course, one of the things that I really can relate to you, what you're touching on there about saying that it's not about firearms. That's one of the things I tell people a lot of times is, to me, this argument, there are people that can feel passionate about firearms on either side. I try to explain to our viewers sometimes there might be someone that was raised in a home where they may have suffered from gun abuse. There may be people that were raised in a home and they've never been taught properly about firearms, and maybe all they know is what they've seen and heard from either the left or Hollywood or something. So it's, to me, it's reasonable that people can be absolutely fearful of these firearms. And I think it's important to point out to them that this is not about the firearm, it's about individual liberties and rights. And I think education is something that's also very important and very close, near and dear to my heart, for making sure that we make sure people understand about education and safety when it comes to firearms. But the individual liberties, and the last thing you touched on, God-given rights, right?
That's right.
We hear people, I try to correct people all the time, and it's a minor point, but I think it's important when people say our constitutional rights. I try to remind them these are our God-given rights, and the Constitution just tells the government what they can, that they're limited on what they can infringe upon our God-given rights.
That's exactly right. That's precisely right.
So that certainly echoes with me. So when you read the Second Amendment and it mentions shall not be infringed, what does shall not be infringed mean to you?
I mean, it means just that. I've been advocating, I think that we need a repeal or a partial repeal of the National Firearms Act. We need concealed carry reciprocity across all 50 states. We need to get rid of the ridiculous $200 tax and 9-month waiting period or 10-month waiting period on suppressors, which are just a way to be polite to your neighbors. There's a number of ways that we can make our gun policy in line with shall not be infringed. But, it goes beyond that, Jeff. And you and I talked about this offline. I think that we as gun owners, if we're going to be responsible gun owners, what we need to do is we need to be saying, okay, when was the last time you took somebody out shooting who's never shot before, right? Have you, does your wife know how to shoot? Do your kids know how to shoot? Have you taken people out who are scared of guns and said, okay, look, here's how you operate this thing safely. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's only as dangerous as its operator. Those are some ways that we can help other people understand about that guns aren't the problem. When we have a lot of people getting killed with guns, mental health is the problem. Suicidality is the problem. Those aren't problems that you can fix by infringing on other people's God-given rights. So there are ways as gun owners that we can be friendly and helpful as we expand our rights.
Yes, absolutely. By the way, if you see me swatting at my head, I've got a kind of an infestation of ladybugs going here. So they say ladybugs are good luck.
No,
but
I think they're kind of gross, especially when there's like 5,000 of them in your house.
And especially when they smell, they smell terrible too. You touched on something there that I actually wasn't going to mention, but you mentioned about the suicide issues. One of the items that they're still trying to push through in Virginia, of course, is the red flag laws, and we're seeing that pick up in 4 other states. And one of the points that we make a lot of times to our viewers is, they say it's about safety, but yet if they come to your house, they're going to take your firearms, but yet they leave you there with your knives, your medication, your car keys, any other ways that you can still hurt yourself. So, I mean, for us personally, we certainly see the red flag law as just a backdoor infringement upon our rights. How do you feel about some of the red flag laws?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that. I think that's that's exactly right. And the truth is the police already have the authority to take guns away from people who, have made threats or who are dangerous. There's restraining orders that a judge can sign, and all of that maintains your due process rights while getting guns out of the hands of people who are truly suicidal or homicidal. That's all to the good. But you're right about red flag laws. What they're trying to do is create either a registry or a way for people to infringe on your rights without due process. And by the way, it doesn't even solve the problem it's supposed to solve. So, if there was some kind of magical red flag law or some kind of magical way to keep guns out of the hands of people who were truly homicidal or truly suicidal, that'd be great. But the red flag laws aren't right. They don't do what they're supposed to do, and they're an infringement on our rights. So we're exactly right to stand up against those. Now, I think that they're going to pass. I think the Virginia version is going to pass. I think the governor's going to sign it, and the courts are going to uphold it, which is bad news for all of us, because what it means is that people can and will weaponize our gun ownership against us. If somebody calls the police and says you're suicidal or homicidal, and they break down your door, that's really dangerous for the police, and it's really dangerous for us as gun owners. So there's going to be some bloodshed over that, and it's going to be innocent blood. It's either going to be a police officer just doing his job, or somebody who got, swatted, it's called when they call the police on you. I'm really worried about it. I think it's the wrong approach, but when you allow the leftists to be in charge, this is what you get. And I'm running against Mark Warner, right? So a lot of you guys know him. A few of you probably voted for him, and you don't need to raise your hand and admit it because that's shameful now. But as governor, he said he was moderate and everything else. And now as a senator, he's signed on for a new assault weapons ban, so-called assault weapons. He's signed on for a new assault weapons ban. He's gone back on his pledge to keep our constitutional rights safe. So, he's got to go, and I'm the guy who can beat him in November.
Well, you're the guy we're pulling for here. I'll certainly say that. So real quickly, we had someone that just commented in our comments. I want to just throw this out there. Anytime we have folks throw out particular important events, particularly around prayer, we always try to promote those. So Noah Taylor, this is Brother Noah Taylor. He's one of the folks that's heavily active here in Scott County. There's going to be another day of prayer, March 14th from 10 to 12. That'll be 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Keith Memorial Park. So Brother Taylor, I appreciate you posting that. I want to make sure everybody saw that comment in case they missed that. So, yeah, you certainly.
Yeah, can I add something there, Jeff?
Oh, absolutely.
So every Friday morning at 7 a.m., we have a campaign prayer call for my campaign where we have a friend of mine leads it. I give a couple of prayer requests, and it's just a 15-minute call every Friday morning is a standing call because we think that God's hand needs to be in this, and we want to ask blessings on our campaign. We want to ask blessings on our folks. And that's also advertised on my Facebook, which is @Gade4Virginia. And I hope we can tag that for me. Delaney, if you can tag that for me, that'd be awesome.
And I know I probably look funny on the camera right now. I'm trying to pull this up. Delaney, if you can do me a favor and post that link to that Facebook page, and we'll pull it up here in a minute. While I'm talking about this, let me just I'm learning some of the technology, Daniel, so if you'll bear with me just a minute here. We also do have gadeforvirginia.com.
Oh, there you go. Look at us.
So if you just go to gadeforvirginia.com, there's a links here where you can put in some information and submit to join the team, the Gade team today. So is there any link on here, Daniel, by chance that goes to that?
Yeah, right up there by the donate button, there's a Facebook button, and that should go straight to our Facebook.
Let's pull that up real quick, if you don't mind.
Hopefully it does.
Okay, it's pulling it up here. Yeah, my internet connection may be just a little bit slow here, but there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So that's an announcement there of our upcoming Eastern swing, and pretty soon you're going to see a Western swing one come up as we firm up the details on. I'm going to be in Lee County on the 22nd. I'm going to be the guest speaker at the Lincoln Reagan dinner there, and then I'm coming over to Scott County at 5 on Sunday the 22nd, and then I'm going to be in Abingdon on the 23rd for a lunch. But all that's going to be up on the Facebook page soon. So it'd be great if we could have you guys follow me on Facebook. That'd be awesome, and get our followers up, and that way you can also see what we're doing.
Absolutely. So if all my moderators are on here, guys, if y'all can please do me a favor and be sure to go out and if you'll just actually make links to both gadeforvirginia.com and as he pointed out, there's a link there to the Facebook page. If my moderators could make some posts of that, we'd certainly appreciate that. We'd certainly love to have everybody sign up so they can follow along, get all the information. Just to make sure I heard you right, you said it was Friday mornings at 7 a.m. is when you have your prayer call?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. We'll certainly we'll continue to ask for people to pray for your message, for everything that you're doing for your team, for the campaign, because, certainly you mentioned some things that Mark Warner's went back on, and that's something that is certainly near and dear to all of our hearts. So we certainly want to, at this point in time, we want to see, I 100% want to see you unseat Mark Warner and lead us in the Senate to better times, better ways. Just sitting here, another item on the Second Amendment that's a pretty heavy, hot topic here in Southwest Virginia. We have some groups here in Southwest Virginia that are pretty adamant when it comes to the militia view perspective. And, one of the things, just to kind of share my perspective first, when it comes to the Second Amendment movement, I'm a firm believer in the constitutional definition of what militias are, and that's the way that it's referred to the Second Amendment. But I think it's one of those things that we really need to maybe, just make sure that like as I mentioned earlier, where there are some people that have reasonable reasons to be fearful of firearms, that we keep that in mind as we move forward and as we talk to folks. And one of the things I also talk about, I also refer pretty regularly to Corinthians in chapter 13. It's one of my favorite. I think it's one of the most beautiful chapters in the Bible, but it talks about doing things with charity, which is love, of course. And, we want to make sure that we maintain that image. So being mindful of some of those folks, I think, is important. With our local militias, we've talked about that. Could you maybe just touch a little bit on how you see militias and the role they can play?
Yeah, absolutely. But I see we've added some new. I think there's some new people in here. I'm Daniel Gade. I'm running for U.S. Senate in Virginia, and I hope that I can earn your vote here tonight, or when I come down later, or you can call me up and we can chat any old time. I'll earn votes one at a time, but I got to get to about 1.5 million to win this thing. So the Constitution says well-regulated militia, and I really think we ought to focus. I think we ought to be careful about focusing on the well-regulated part. So when I think well-regulated, what I think is citizens behaving themselves, citizens doing things in a way that promotes safety, that promotes our shared values, but isn't unnecessarily antagonistic. So I'll give you an example. I've got a friend, I like him. He's a perfectly lovely guy. A couple of months ago, or maybe a year ago, he led what he called a Second Amendment awareness march down the main street in Old Town Alexandria. Now, his version of this was to carry an AR-15 across his body. A couple of his buddies had ARs, I guess, too, and he was well within his rights. Obviously, we're an open carry state. The problem with that is not that he was exercising his rights, but that he was doing it in a way which actually creates more problems than it solves. Because what you're doing when you do that is you're terrifying people, and you're making them think that we're doing that we are all these wild-eyed crazy people or something. It was not a helpful thing to do. Instead, as we move forward into this, as we lean forward into this militia thing, what we need to be doing is what is the purpose of a militia? I think, of course, you could do gun training. Take your ARs and your pistols into the woods and do training. All of that is great. It's all positive. But I think there's other things we can do as militia members too. We can register new voters. We can help people in natural disasters. Just the other, I think about 3 weeks ago, Tazewell County had a horrible flood, and it destroyed, I think, around 100 homes. Really bad. There's a lot of people who are homeless up there. Wouldn't it be great if the militia from Scott County got on a couple of buses and went up there and helped fill sandbags, or helped people move their valuable possessions out of the house before mold gets in there, or helped set up some tents so people can have temporary shelter during this time? That's the way that we can make the militia movement into a positive thing instead of into a thing that's negative. But we need to, in order to preserve our rights in the long term, which is what we all should be looking at right now, we need to take the Second Amendment stuff, which is all good, and then we need to turn it into a political movement by maturing it from, everybody's excited and fired up to we're now organized. We're getting people to vote. We're helping people get to the polls on June 9th in my primary, and again in November for the general election. We're helping people accomplish the things they need to accomplish in their lives. So there's a lot of things we can do. You can put it under the militia name. I think that's a little tiny bit problematic, even though it's in the Constitution. I think a better way to call it a patriot group or something like that. Because the word militia sort of has these like right-wing 1990s in Michigan kind of connotations. So there's some things we can do that are positive, and I think it's the right thing to do. I totally encourage it. It's completely within our rights as constitutional people to associate with whoever we want, and even to carry guns while we're doing it. But I think being smart about it, be innocent as a dove, but also wise as a serpent. And that's also in the scriptures too. So let's be thoughtful about that as we move forward.
You said that so much more eloquently than I've been able to. I know that's something we've talked as a topic about before, and I think the way you said that is exactly how I think. So I appreciate you putting that in words that I've never been able to quite articulate, because I think you're exactly right. I think it's a very positive thing. It's part of our God-given rights. It's part of what is protected in the Constitution. So I think certainly whatever we can do to improve that unfortunate, twisted image that's been portrayed in society, I think it's going to work to all of our benefit to be able to do that. So I appreciate that input.
Yeah, that's right.
Is there
Noah, that comment is exactly right. When we talk about 1 Corinthians 13, we talk about love. That's totally right. Loving other people means serving them. And, as guys, especially as guys, some ladies are into this too. We want to go in the woods and shoot guns, and that's all great. I love that. sorry, I think there's a fire alarm going off at my house. Is that bothering you? Can you hear that?
We hear it, but as long as you're safe, everybody good?
I don't know. I hope so.
Check it out if you got to. Go check it out.
No, I don't smell any smoke. I think we're good. So anyway, that was distracting.
We were talking about the positive image for militias.
Oh yeah. So I think just doing things in a positive way. All that's great. Leave the body armor at home. Wear a polo shirt that says Scott County Patriots Group on it, and then go help a little old lady across the street. And now we're getting somewhere in terms of how we're loving our fellow citizen.
Absolutely. And just to call out, guys, so for all of our viewers, we got Daniel Gade for a candidate for U.S. Senate. He's the man that we're going to get to unseat Mark Warner. There's comments here. I'll just jump over as I'm sitting here talking a little bit more. I want to make sure Daniel stays on the screen here with me. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. You can check out more at gadeforvirginia.com. This link is also in the comments, so you can see his beautiful family here, as well as from there you can get to his Facebook page. Be sure to join his Facebook page, like and share his Facebook page. We certainly appreciate that. But the thing I want to call out is, it's just beautiful because like you just said, you just had a smoke alarm going off. Just like with our group, we are citizens. We tell people we're citizens serving citizens. And really everything I've heard about you, Daniel, that's exactly how you see yourself. You're a public servant. You're a servant leader. You're a God-fearing, God-loving individual. And that's just one of the things I just want to call it out at this point in time and say I really appreciate that. So
yeah, I'm also more than that, right? I'm also a fighter. When I served in combat, I was wounded in combat twice. I was decorated for valor against the enemies of our country in Iraq. And I'm absolutely, there's not a thing they can do. This is important. Listen to me. There's not a thing they can do in politics to make me leave our values behind, to make me stop fighting for our shared values, because everybody on here is going to be an important part of this campaign and an important part of helping me succeed as your United States Senator.
Well, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but we tell people with this channel that this channel is theirs. You sound like the kind of person that's going to say your campaign is their campaign, right? A win for
That's right.
Getting your campaign to win is a win for the citizens of Virginia, right?
That's right. And pretty soon, actually, there's going to be a couple of ways that you can help. Right on our website, right there's going to be a tab that says how you can help, and there's going to be like a thing that you can just download, a PDF that we in the campaign produced that. It's not on there yet, so I don't think look for it. But
okay,
it's going to be up there in the next day or two. But the bottom line is, you can print it off. It's going to be like a little bio of me, what I stand for, what our values are, and then you can take it to church with you. You can hand it out to whoever you think might be interested in getting out the vote. Because in order to offset the nonsense that goes on up here in Fairfax County, we need every single body in Scott and Lee and Wise and Washington and on to show up to the polls and vote. And I think we can do it. I think there's the right energy if we are harnessing that energy now through voter registration, through organization. And I would love to have your help and meet as many of you folks on the March 22nd event as possible. And again, when I'm back there at a date after that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're certainly trying to rally behind you as well. And just as a call out for those that are also joining in, he did mention earlier, Daniel, that on March 15th, it was on your Facebook page where you said there'd be information about that Colt 1911 giveaway.
Yeah, we'll have that on the Facebook page. We're gonna have a big announcement. Actually, y'all probably know Tim Anderson, the gun attorney in the beach.
Yes.
He's great. He's endorsed me. He's fully on board with my campaign, and I'm a huge fan of his too. And we're going to go and we're going to shoot a video, I think on Friday, where we're going to take that gun and we're going to test fire it. And then that video will be part of our announcement. It's a sweet gun, man. It's a competition model 1911. I don't have the actual model number here with me, but it's a sweet gun, and we're going to raffle it off. All you got to do is give $25 to the campaign, and I promise I'll spend it wisely as I campaign to kick Mark Warner out of the U.S. Senate. That's
awesome. Well, all you have to say is Colt. I've never seen a Colt that's been a bad firearm. I'm a big Ruger guy myself too. I love Rugers, but Colts are fantastic pistols. I've never been able to get my hands on one of the Pythons. I think. I've
never shot one either.
Python. I love the Pythons.
Well, I've got my everyday carry pistol right here. This is a little Ruger EC9S. So I'm a fan of Ruger as well.
Fantastic. I love all firearms. That's one of the things I tell people about the firearms. You mentioned, assault weapons, and as the term that they use. Obviously, this is the original assault rifle on the back, but just a little off topic here, but I always see firearms too. I love the history of firearms. I love the engineering behind firearms, and quite honestly, a lot of firearms are really quite beautiful. I mean, I've been fortunate in my lifetime to know some long arms, some contemporary muzzleloader makers that do beautiful artwork. There's one of my favorite ones I've got from a gentleman named Lewis Smith. He passed away years ago, but as a matter of fact, I believe maybe his daughter-in-law may be one of our guests viewing right now. But on the stock of that thing, it has a beautifully engraved eagle, and it's in one of the primitive style eagles like we would have seen early in the founding of our country, and it's just one of my favorite firearms. So I know that's off topic. I get on squirrel moments occasionally. Please forgive me for that. But
yeah, no problem. I want to address a couple of things that are in the comments right there. So Jeff Struth, I'm sorry, Jeff, can't say your last name, but anyway, he said something about not wanting 2 Republicans in the House. You guys are in the 9th congressional district, which means Morgan Griffith is your congressman, and I'm a huge fan of Morgan. I think he needs to stay your congressman, and I hope he does. You've got a great senator down there. I'm not sure if your area covers him, but Todd Pillion is a great senator, and I'm a huge fan of his. And he took Bill Carrico's seat, and Bill has endorsed me as well. So I'm all in. But here's the thing. Remember, I'm running for U.S. Senate, so I'm running statewide. So I've got to win the 9th and the 6th and the 5th and the 1st across the state. So I'm not running against Morgan. I'm running alongside Morgan to put Republicans back in the U.S. Senate and beat Mark Warner.
Yeah, that's very important for people to realize. This is we're not talking state Senate level, guys. This is U.S. Senate. This is at the federal level. So this is huge. So I see another comment on here. Locked and Loaded brother Justin Welsh is asking the question, do you have a Twitter page?
Yeah, the Twitter is also at Gade for Virginia, or whatever hashtag, whatever Twitter is, but it's Gade for Virginia. It's on there.
You know what? I think I had a link right here. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. Let's see. I'm not sharing my screen. And let me go over here real quick. I want to share the screen so folks can see this. So guys, online, if you go to GadeToVirginia.com, you can see there's links at the top up here next to the donate button. Be sure to smash that donate button and contribute to the campaign. But we've also got the Facebook link and the Twitter page. So here's the Twitter page. You can see it.
Yeah, there it is.
Follow along, share that. That'd be fantastic, as well as his Facebook page, guys. We're asking y'all to smash those follow buttons and share those on social media. And we know we'd certainly want to spread the word as best as we can to take back Virginia and take back our rights all across the United States. We tell people all the time, we certainly focus heavily on Scott County, but it matters to all the Commonwealth, and it really matters to our republic all across the Great Republic, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, what happens in Virginia goes, remember, our national experiment started right here in Virginia. So what happens in Virginia is an example to the whole country. And so as the Second Amendment movement has taken off in Virginia, as we're beginning to realize that when leftists get in charge, they take our rights. That's what they always do. I think there's a real movement to that's gonna end up in being a wave for me in November, and that's awesome. And that's going to be an example to the rest of the country. Like, look, it's all right to cast off the yoke of leftism you do it peacefully by voting. And that's the right way to do it. And I think that we're in a real good situation right now. And with your help, if everybody on this, if everybody here, when we get that thing up on our website with the PDF that you can print off at home, if everybody printed 10 and took it to their Sunday school, or printed 100 and took it to 10 friends, and those 10 take it to more people, that's the way that we get a grassroots campaign absolutely on fire. And already we're on fire. We're on fire in Tidewater. We're on fire in Southwest. And I'm just thrilled to be alongside you guys for this exciting movement to protect our rights.
Well, and Daniel, as that flyer comes out, I will just point out some of our viewers here. So again, I mentioned Locked and Loaded 100% Justin Welsh, who's commenting on here. He's actually one of the guys that helped us. We would not be on YouTube if it wasn't for Justin Welsh. So Locked and Loaded he's between 5,000 and 6,000 subscribers. So I just want to give a shout out to Justin. I know he's going to do a fantastic job of helping to spread the message as well and get the information out. And when we have those flyers, we'll be certain to do all that we can through our social media and our outreach to try to reach out to as many folks as we can to make sure we can get that out. You mentioned Alderman Pillion, and our delegate here in Scott County in this district is Terry Kilgore. As a follow-up, just real quick, let me just pitch that tomorrow evening we're supposed to be having an interview in this very similar format. We know that Delegate Terry Kilgore is supposed to be on the interview. There's a chance that Todd may be joining in, And that's scheduled for 8 right now. Now, I did hear from his contact earlier that some of the sessions have been going late, so there may be a slight change. But whether it's tomorrow night, whether it's later in the evening, or maybe even the following evening, we're going to be having Todd eventually online. We'd love to have Terry online as well. We'll be definitely having him online. So this is fantastic. I don't know, were there any other questions that you've seen fly by there, Daniel, you wanted to address?
No, actually, I do want to address something, though. It's not a question. It's I see my friend Bill Willis on here. And I want to say something about Bill. Bill could be doing a lot of other things, but starting in I'll look for your comment here, Bill, but I think November or so, Bill, I think, was at an event I was at, and he was like, oh man, this is my candidate. This is how I want to help this guy. And Bill has been absolutely tireless now for 4 months, just crushing it around all of Southwest Virginia. He's been over all the way. I think he went to Roanoke for me one day. He's representing me in Abingdon on the 21st for their Lincoln Reagan dinner. He gathered personally like 400 signatures for me to get on the ballot. And by the way, our ballot access stuff is complete. We're turning it in at Republican Party headquarters tomorrow morning. It's going to be awesome. So Bill is the kind of guy who, if we win this election, when we win this election in November, when we get President Trump reelected, when we get me elected, when we get Morgan Griffith reelected, Bill is the kind of guy who can do that. And if you need inspiration, you look at Bill Willis and guys like him who are absolutely crushing it across the state to try to help me win this fight. And I need battle buddies. In the army, you always have your buddy, right? We call them Ranger buddies or battle buddies. And Bill is my battle buddy down there, and I've got a couple others, but I want to give him a shout out.
Absolutely. He was actually at one of our team meetings here in Gate City as well. So we know we've certainly seen him. We've had a chance to meet him, and it's good to hear from him always. Real quickly, we touched earlier. I don't think we talked about it in the intro. We never covered that Ironman story. Can you care to touch on that real quick?
Yeah. So after I got, sure. So you might not know this. I'm a right leg amputee, and I'm a high level amputee. So when I got blown up, the explosion came up through my thigh and destroyed the whole leg. And so I'm a high level amputee. I use crutches to get around. I don't typically I have a prosthetic, but I don't typically wear it. So anyway, so I'm doing Ironman Arizona in 2010, and I'd done a couple other Ironmans and things, or half Ironmans, but this is my first full Iron. And the distance is on the bike was 112 miles. And I'm halfway through the bike, and I'm pedaling just with one leg because that's all I have, And I pass this guy, a two-legged guy, and he's pedaling, and I pass him. And he says under his breath, but loud enough where I can hear, he goes, "Oh my God, I suck." And and it was so funny, man, because it was like I took his life force and I used it as fuel for the rest of my race, and that was a lot of fun, But I think as that's the spirit of America, right? We don't quit. And so when I got hurt, I didn't quit doing hard things. I still do CrossFit. I ride my bike. But when we get hurt in things like elections, like what happened in November in Virginia, we also can't quit. We can't just tuck our tails down under our legs and say, oh, well, somebody will save us. The courts will save us. No, we're supposed to save ourselves. And that's why we need to get organized. We need to get energized. We need to get to the polls, and we need to harness this energy to send a strong message that our rights are not for sale. And that's what I'm hoping to do in November, and I could use your help.
Absolutely. You touched on something there, and I believe I read online that there's a group, it's a philanthropy roundtable that one of your, it's around veterans, making sure there's better enablement, and as opposed to just maybe getting, maybe keeps them at home a little bit more and trying to get them more active in the community. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the co-founder of a $15 million experiment in veteran recovery. So what I saw when I was at Walter Reed all those years ago, this happened in 2005 when I got hurt. What I saw is a lot of guys were feeling, they sort of, if you're given everything, you begin to feel like you don't need to go out and earn it. And so my buddies and I, a couple of my friends and I put together this experiment. And what we're doing is we're demonstrating that when you give veterans a leg up, I guess bad joke coming from me, right? But when you give them some training up front, when you give them some inspiration up front, they can really thrive. And we're demonstrating that right now. And we're going to take that in a nonprofit setting in Georgia, actually, because there's a nonprofit there that we partnered with. But we've helped hundreds of veterans find jobs. We're seeing better mental health, better physical health, And I'm hoping that that will be an inspiration for public policy as we go forward and as I get elected to the Senate.
Absolutely. Well, and to hear your sense of humor about it, I mean, I think, you tell your story, you're a hero, right? I mean, you really, that's what I think is really, that's one of the things I've been excited about. We talked to maybe some politicians and some folks that have done some really great things in public service, but it's not that every day we get a chance to talk to a real hero. So once again, just thank you for your service. We're certainly seeing that comments a lot here, but that's what's so cool about you. I mean, to me, it's amazing. I mean, at one time I was in much better health shape than what I was. I was an athlete, played a lot of sports. Even in my greatest days, to try to do an Ironman would have been a real serious challenge. So the fact that you've done that as a single leg amputee is just, to me, amazing. There's a friend of mine, I believe his wife is watching right now, Jeremy Pierce. I hope he doesn't mind me throwing his name out there, but he's also a veteran from Iraq. And I know folks like you, folks like him, they all are inspiring to all of us as we look up to you. You guys are real heroes. You really did this for everybody. So again, thank you for your service.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'll just go one step further here and say that, everybody who does the best they can in the circumstance that God gave them is a hero in my book. So the school teacher who's going to work every day, the truck driver who's going to work every day, the people who are taking care of their families and serving their families and their communities, those people are all heroes too. I don't really like the term hero, but I think those people are heroic. And so I don't want to just say that only veterans or only firefighters who run into burning buildings are heroes, because everybody who's doing their God-given work to the best of their abilities are heroes. So to me, there's a whole lot of heroes on this call right now, and a whole lot more are going to see this video. So I'm super proud of everybody.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. If you care, we're going to switch gears, just move on to one topic. We're by the way, we're about 41 minutes in. Are you still good?
Oh, man, I'm having a lot of fun. We can go 2 hours if you want, but I think the crowd is going to drop off to zero.
All right, yeah, we're just going to keep chatting here. So, guys, by the way, just throw this out there in the comments, just to reiterate real quickly, we are talking with candidate for U.S. Senate. This is the U.S. Senate, guys. This is at the federal level, national level. This is not state level Senate. Daniel Gade, while we're doing that, and I'm talking a little bit here, switch over here, guys. If you have the chance, we have his website streaming down below. It's gadeforvirginia.com. If you go there is a button here where you can slide down and submit to join the team. Importantly, here at the top is also the donate button, a Facebook link, and a Twitter link. These are also going to be some great outlets that you can share, join, follow. And Daniel did mention earlier that there's going to be a link later on this month on the website where there'll be some flyers. For all of you who follow along, as that comes up, we'll be sure to do a video and show you guys where that link is at and make sure you can access to that. So again, switching gears a little bit, let's switch topics off of 2A just for a moment, because I think everything we've heard, we know you see the 2A the same way that we do. It's a God-given right. It's something that we need to stand by. I love, by the way, that the way that you addressed that about, not sitting back and having someone else fix our problems. That's exactly what got myself, as well as I know a lot of our other administrators and the folks on our team to come and join us, is that we can no longer. Just in this morning in the board of supervisors meeting, I mentioned, the further we go down this path, I realize more and more the truth of the old statement that all it takes for evil to succeed is for good men and women to do nothing, right? And I think that's something. So we all need to stand up. But again, switching gears here a little bit, let's talk about the pro-life versus pro-choice.
Yeah, totally.
So can you touch us about your pro-life views?
Yeah, I'm 100% pro-life. I think that it's totally clear. Yes, I'm 100% pro-life. We need to protect the children in the womb, because they are children from the moment of conception on. We also, though, I'll go one step further. We need to create a society that's friendly and welcoming to women and babies too. My wife and I have a rule, and we're getting our kids on board with this rule, that whenever we see a baby in public with its mama, we always say hi to the baby. And the reason is because, those mommies are working hard out there. And the more we can help create a society where abortion becomes something that is unthinkable, the better off we'll all be. Now, as a U.S. Senator, I'm intending to put in legislation that will result in a personhood amendment to the Constitution. It's actually it's not legislation, but a personhood amendment to the Constitution, I think, is something we need to make it obvious that we are a pro-life nation. And then, we also need to make sure that we are, every other policy we have are family-centered policies, are family-friendly policies, because being pro-life is being pro-woman. and being pro-woman means being pro-life. So I'm committed to that, and it needs to be a full spectrum fight. But I'll tell you, in politics, it's kind of uncomfortable to say that, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a little story about that. My political consultants, not my current team, but the previous team, which I'll get to in a second, I was working on a pro-life op-ed with this woman named Lila Rose, who's the president of Live Action USA. And in it, we argued the obvious, which is that children with disabilities shouldn't be targeted for destruction in the womb because of their disabilities, or for any other reason, but especially because of disability. Because I'm disabled. There's a lot of people who have other kinds of disabilities, and we shouldn't devalue people just because their bodies or their minds aren't the same as everybody else. So we made that argument, and we'd been working on it for a couple of months, and then I was getting ready to announce my campaign, and my consultants came to me and they said, well, listen, you probably ought not to lead on this pro-life stuff because, yeah, be pro-life, but, be quiet about it. And I was like, man, you're fired. That's ridiculous. So, I've got in my desk drawer right here next to me, I've got a couple of principles that I wrote down before I ever started the campaign. And they're things like limited government. They're things like, strong national defense, things like promote free markets, of course, all of those. But the first one I wrote down is I am pro-life, and I'm not ashamed of it. And I'm not going to run away from it. I don't care what consultants say because they're wrong, and I won't do it. So I am absolutely pro-life. Yes, sir.
No, I appreciate that. Again, I held up my Bible here earlier. One of the things is, as I've gotten into this, and I tell people all the time, guys, I fall short of what where I should be going is to eternal hell. And I know that. But based upon my deeds, that's where I belong, right? It's the grace of God that gives me salvation. And I tell people with the Bible, when I think about that, I try to remember the fact that, if God is for it, then who can stand against it, right? I also try to remind myself that sometimes, listen, I want God's will to be done. So as you're saying there are certain things that you're going to stand by. That's something I think that also is going to resonate. It resonates with me personally. I know it will resonate with our viewers. We also, within our comments here, we certainly always welcome prayer requests. We will do a prayer. We close out our videos all the time with prayer. So I really appreciate that view. I think, you mentioned also something there with your family practice where you, when your children and your wife, you see a child in public, you always, go up to them and say hi. There was actually he was a professor of mine, Don Sanderson. He was a very, very tall individual. He was like 6'6". But I remember one of the things, he loved children, and just hearing you, it just reminds me, and I just want to throw this out there to kind of, resonate with your point about recognizing and having a society that's friendly to children and to women and to families. Anytime that he would see a child as tall as he was, he would always kneel all the way down to get to eye level. And his idea behind that was, he didn't want his children to think that he was some guy big or above them. He wanted to get down on their level. And so, hearing you talk about that, I know Don meant a lot to a lot of people. So I think that just resonates. And I think that's a fantastic story as a society. If we recognize the inherent beautiful value of women and children, families, united families, fathers that stay with the families and families that stay together, that's an incredibly important thing. So I
want to, two comments right now. Dylan, you had this great point about we need better adoption laws. That's totally true. Our adoption laws are a mess. It shouldn't be so hard to adopt babies and really we could do things like tax credits for people who give up babies for adoption so that they don't feel so pressured to abort. That's definitely part of what we could do.
I love that.
Another thing I would just say though, is that, we ought to be able to, and I'm a conservative Christian too. So I can make the sort of God-made, God-breathed argument for sure. Definitely. But we also need to be able to make the argument just from a science point of view. We know that the only thing that separates an embryo on the wall of its mother's womb from you or me or an old person is time and location, not kind. It's the same thing. If you have a 10-cell organism on the wall of its mother's womb, that's a person.
That's right.
And just like an old person is a person, the only thing that separates them is time and location. And so, science has given us this, and it's just about time for our laws to catch up to the science here.
I love that. I can say, for me personally, I'll say as years ago when I would have maybe debates with atheists or people of other, beliefs, religious beliefs, I'll be honest with you, it was a personal struggle because I did tend to just stick with that Christian, that biblical view. I've matured and I've realized that, you're not going to win people over because that's a hard line to cross. So I think, you touched on that. I think, and you're exactly right. And that's exactly the view that we all should have, is to understand that, we certainly have our Christian values, but even if we're having that discussion with someone else, again, it kind of goes back to that whole respecting each other as well, right?
Yeah.
If they don't have that view, we do have a freedom of religion in our country, and thank God we do. So let's don't, abandon their and disrespect their views. But like you said, we can come into it from a scientific perspective. And again, you eloquently nailed it. You and me would get a whole lot if we hang on. So,
yeah, well, let's hang out. Let's hang out. If you have bears on your farm, I'll come hunt bears with you.
I wish we had bears here. We got a lot of deer. If you ever come down, I've told people. So, real quick, this is a little bit off topic. Another squirrel here, but you live in Mount Vernon, correct?
Right.
So, I love. It's been years since I've been up to George Washington, Mount Vernon Estate, but I'm really hoping maybe this year will be the year I'll get the kids up there, get to go see Mount Vernon. Get him over and see Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. Take him into DC. But the house that I live in, that we live in here, it's actually a farmhouse. So my wife, I make a mess. If y'all can see the rest of the room, I've got stuff strewn about my notes. But we live right down the road. But this is a farmhouse that we own. This house was actually built in 1783 by a gentleman who actually fought in the Battle of Kings Mountain. And if you're familiar with the American Revolution, that was a turning point in the Revolutionary War. It was Abraham Fulkerson. The district we live in is actually called the Fulkerson District. It's named after him. He was the first commissioner in Scott County. He's buried right out back here behind the house. So if you ever come down and you want a place to stay, we've got a farmhouse. I mean, we're trying to get it all perfect and everything, but we'd love to have you come down and stay. If you ever need a place to stay down this area, let me know.
I'm ready, brother. That sounds great. Hey, awesome. While we're on this, I sent you an email. So earlier I was saying that we're going to raffle off a 1911 on my Facebook page. You got to go to the Facebook page. We're going to raffle it off starting on March 15th. I sent you a picture of it though. If you want to pull it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same model. I think that'll whet people's appetite.
Let me get that pulled up here. I know I probably look funny when I lean forward. I'm not cognizant of when I lean forward up to the computer like that.
And while you're pulling up, I just want to some comments from Bill Willis that I want to talk about. The campaign is doing so great right now. So the first challenge in a campaign like this is to raise a little bit of money so you can raise a little more money. And we, as of the December 31st report, I'd raised more than all the other candidates combined, except for this one gentleman who invested some money in his campaign and he's not actually campaigning. So all of the active candidates have outraised all of them, and that's great news. It's a testament to people being generous and realizing that this is a movement that needs fuel. So if you want to fuel the movement, please do. That's part one. Part two is getting on the ballot in Virginia is really hard. You need at least 400 signatures per congressional district, and you need 10,000 overall statewide. Most campaigns, including some campaigns that you've heard of in the past, actual established politicians, have to go out and hire people to get signatures. So they actually have to pay people to go out and get signatures. And one of the people in my primary is actually paying people like $7 a signature to gather signatures.
Wow.
Which for 10,000 signatures, that's a lot of money, right? That's a year's salary for somebody who's doing well. So we did it all with volunteers, and we're going to be the first campaign to turn in our signatures. That's amazing. And it's just a testament to the statewide momentum, statewide movement. Lots of people who are coming out of the woodwork saying, I've never done anything in politics before. What can I do to help you? And guys like Bill Willis here, guys like you, Jeff, of course, Delin is a dear friend, although we haven't met in person. All you folks are doing great in the Southwest. In the Southeast, I've got the same thing going on. In Northern Virginia, I have some dear volunteers who are just crushing it. So statewide, our volunteer network is awesome, and we're just it's a lot of fun actually to be it's sort of like it's like being the general of an army of like people who are so motivated. It's a lot of fun. We're having a good time.
Well, that's grassroots, and maybe down the road with some of your other regional folks, maybe we could do if it's ever useful to use this venue and maybe get everybody online. We'd love to be able to facilitate that. Maybe a quick online. I know you have a town hall venue as well, so we certainly don't want to step toes on that. But anything we can ever do, let us know.
Yeah, I'm going to start having two town halls a week. One's going to be on Tuesdays. One's going to be on Sunday afternoons. Just brief, 30 minutes kind of campaign update and give people a chance to ask questions and things like that. I would love to, it's a big state, right? Mm-hmm. And you and I are 8 hours apart by driving right now. So it would be great to be on this show anytime. If you want to put together a little virtual event where you invite me into your little dojo here, we can do some jiu-jitsu together. I'm in. It sounds great.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned that firearm, so let me share my screen here real quick. And I know that
there it is.
Small, but this is guys. So this is a 1911 Series 70. This is actually one of my personal carries. I carry one very similar. It's an older model, but the 1911 is one of the longest running firearms. If you know anything about the 1911, it is actually the longest military service pistol. Now we just recently, of course, if you guys are familiar, the M17 from I believe it's Sig Sauer recently unseated the previous Beretta. That was the military service weapon. But the 1911, I believe, are there still folks that carry the 1911 in the military?
There may be a few in like the special operations community. I don't think so, though. I think those are completely phased out.
Okay.
This is a funny story. When I was in Iraq, we raided this house one time where we'd found out there were some terrorists, and they were actually Syrians who were coming through our area, going to Baghdad. They were going to be suicide bombers. It was really gross, but. So there's like 17 of these guys in this house. We raid this house, and one of them had a pistol on his person, and it was a Colt 1911, and it had been chromed out completely. So it's all chrome, and through the chrome, you could see where it said "property of U.S. government" right down the side. So it was one. I never got a chance to do the research because I got blown up like 2 days later, so my war was over. But we never got a chance to do the research to find out where that pistol had come from, but it was one just like that one. Obviously, that one's a much nicer one than this beat up piece of junk that I found on this Syrian terrorist. But it was pretty cool.
So I love the M1 Garand. That's another. I don't know if you love. I love military history. My dad was in the Army, so military firearms is something very near and dear to my heart. The M1 Garand is another one of the most fantastic battle rifles. I know it's not a modern rifle in what's used currently in the military, but there was a very similar story where they actually found an M1 Garand. I saw a video online.
Oh, sure.
Recovered one of those.
Yeah, definitely.
One of those left over from the World War or that era weapon that was left over there. So very cool story. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were saying something.
I was just going to say if there's any other questions that's came up that's flown by that we need to address or look at.
No, I don't think so. I just want to talk about just a couple of little things real quick, and then we should probably, cut this thing off. Yeah. I can stay as long as you want, but I know you said an hour. So, I'm committed. If you go to my website, you can pull up my values on there, and I'm for limited government and strong national defense and individual liberty and free markets. And I'm not afraid to fight for those values. I'm a constitutional conservative. I'm going to fight for those values, and I can do it in a way that Mark Warner can't do. And first off, he never would because he's not a conservative in any way. But I have the ability through my policy training and my previous expertise in government stuff to do the work of a United States senator. But getting there is going to take a grassroots movement. And it's going to take folks like you registering voters, turning out at the polls, volunteering to door knock. You can actually make calls from where you are to other parts of the state later in the campaign as we get our phone banking operation up and going. So I'm excited about this. I think we can do this together, and I'm just thrilled to be with you folks in Scott County.
Absolutely. And if you don't care, because we did have a few more things to address, what are going to be some of your top priorities as U.S. Senator?
Yeah, I think the very first thing that just matters so much, it's the most important thing we have going right now, is to get our government back in its proper box. The federal government is only supposed to do a couple little things. They're supposed to raise and maintain an army, keep the Navy going. There's some rule of law stuff that is federal government responsibility. But over the it's gotten really bad in the last 70 years, but over the last 100 years, the federal government has gotten totally out of control and is trying to do a lot of things that are state and local responsibilities. So the first thing we have to do is take a step back and ask ourselves, put a banner over the door that says, what does the Constitution say? and then focus on pushing power down to state and local governments, executing things like education programs, education systems. That's a state and local function, not a federal function. We need to get back in that. There's a whole bunch of things like that. So it's not, what are we going to add to the federal government in terms of policy? It's what are we going to push to the states and local governments where that power is executed as close to the people as possible, because that's how you keep a government accountable, is you have government as close to the people as possible.
I could hold my notes up here that I had prepared earlier, and it's just funny because so many of these things, you touched the NFA earlier, we talked about militias, some of the things that you've led into, small local government, that's some of the things that were on my agenda. So again, we're thinking very much along the same lines. So it's great to hear that. And I think you're exactly right. This grassroots efforts, that small government, reminding ourselves what the purposes of the federal versus local and how that authority was supposed to be rolled out is really, really good. I know we do have a few other people still coming online here. Real quickly, I did see Delynn. She's put it a couple of times. Maybe also in the future, if you'd be up for it, Daniel, maybe we could even do maybe a 4-way interview with you, Todd Pillion, and our delegate Terry
and Terry Kagor. Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to do it. And if anybody's, I'd like to have those guys formally endorse me as soon as possible so we can move out together. So let them know.
We'll have a conversation with them. When I bring it up tomorrow, I'll bring it up. I'll ask you about that real quickly. I know one of the things we wanted to touch on was Super Tuesday. I don't want to give a whole lot of attention. I'm going to throw out there what I think about it, and then I'd love to hear what you think about it. I didn't see a whole lot of huge surprises. I've told people I think that the Democrats are still freaking out that if Bernie won. So I think that's why we saw Buttigieg and Klobuchar drop out before Super Tuesday. I think they were really trying to rally around pardon the term, but crazy Uncle Joe, because some of the comments he makes are unreal. He made a comment here recently in one of the debates, if you saw it, that, half the United States population had been murdered by firearms since 2007. He actually said 150 million people.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm sure that's not what he meant, so
no.
I don't too bad. But there were no huge surprises. We're seeing that Biden is certainly leading the way. We know that, Bernie's going to continue to push. But were there any surprises out of Super Tuesday or anything you want to touch on?
I was surprised only by the strength of Biden's comeback. I mean, he really did come back in a pretty big way, and it looks like the Democrats are going to conspire to steal the nomination from Bernie again.
I agree.
If Bernie can win at the convention, which is possible, it seems like they're going to go into an open convention. If Bernie can win at the convention, then that's great for the president here because he'll definitely win Virginia and he'll definitely be reelected if Bernie's the nominee, no question about it. In my view, Biden on paper is stronger because he used to be vice president and everything. But as you look at him, it's so clear that he's losing a step or three that I feel sorry for him. I mean, he doesn't seem well. He's probably a perfectly fine guy, but if you look at his policies, again, don't ever listen to what a politician says. This is your voting finger, right? Watch their voting finger. And what Biden is endorsing is the same list of leftist nonsense that all the others were endorsing and that Mark Warner will go along with, which is why we need to throw him out. So Green New Deal, which will cripple the coal industry, open borders, which will cripple our sort of agricultural sector because all of our people, all of our citizens are going to be thrown out of jobs. You look at late-term abortion. He's already said that abortion should be available to the moment of birth, government funded, minors included, no parental consent. That's crazy. That is a far left policy position. And so, and Biden's in on all that stuff. So it doesn't really matter who they nominate, in my view. I think that President Trump is going into this in a very, very strong position. But if we get lazy, now listen to me, this is important. If we get lazy, if we say, oh, Trump's going to smash those nonsense candidates, then we're going to be in real trouble. Because the Democrats are motivated. They hate the president. They hate his accomplishments. They don't like him. We need to show up, and we need to get, I think Bill Willis said this earlier, we need to get 60% turnout in Scott County. We need to get 60% turnout in Scott County. We need to go to the nursing homes. We need to go to we need to get blue collar people who would just like the government to leave them alone and they've never even registered to vote. We need to get those folks registered to vote. Because if the leftists take control at the presidency, the Senate, and the House, then what we see going on in Richmond is going to happen nationwide. And I'm really worried about that. And so, I need your help to beat Mark Warner and keep the Senate in the hands of conservatives.
Absolutely. We are at an hour and 4 minutes. I want to go maybe about 5, maybe 10 more minutes, but we'll try to keep it about 5. So just real quickly for everyone that's joining, we do have with us candidate for U.S. Senate, Daniel Gade. He is going to be the one that's going to unseat Mark Warner and bring back some common sense to the Senate. Guys, everything he's talking about, if you're just now tuning in, guys, please go back and watch this. So to touch on some of the things you just talked about, Daniel, I don't know if you saw it also, but, Biden has came out now and said, it was just today I saw some articles about him wanting to include Beto O'Rourke in his
yeah.
And we know that he's the one that talked about, coming and taking your AR-15s. And so, from a Second Amendment, which our channel is certainly big on the Second Amendment issues, among other God-given rights. But, Biden, he just lines up. And it's interesting that the Democratic, every single one of the debates, the policies, they seem to really dance all around, but they always come back to just getting Donald Trump out of office. That seems to be the main ticket that we're trying to run on. And I understand there's a lot of anger and a lot of hatred really toward the president we have now. But it's just interesting that to me, whenever they talk very lightly around their policies, and then they end with a loud roar of let's get Donald Trump out of there. And I always find that interesting because I say, I really tell people, and I mean this, we have some Democrats that even are probably watch our channel. And I tell them, I say, listen, you need to vote with your heart. You need to vote with your morals, with what matters to you. Now, that certainly for Second Amendment owners typically aligns Republican. But I tell them, I say, listen, guys, even as we move forward, we should always be cautious about who our elected representatives are. And what I mean by that is we don't want to get to the point that we just blindly follow a party like we're quite honestly seeing in the Democrat Party right now. We're seeing so many people that say anybody but Donald Trump. And I tell people that, I don't agree with everything that Donald Trump's done. I'll be the first to say that, right? We need to be mindful and think about what it is we're saying. So I don't know where I was going with that. I kind of rambled on for a second there.
No. You're right. I mean, the president is not perfect. He's a sinner like the rest of us. And, I think I don't want to criticize him too much, but one thing that I think he could be better on, I think he could help us get our deficit under control by not signing bills that have $1 trillion deficits year over year. I think that's a mistake. So that's something that I wish he would do better on. I can help him with that. I can help put some steel in his spine on that if you help me get elected. Awesome. But on the rest of the stuff, don't look at his Twitter feed. Twitter's a garbage website anyway. If you don't like Twitter, if you don't like the joking around and badgering people do to each other on Twitter, turn it off. Just look at the policies. Look at your 401k. Look at his pro-life policies. Look at his great judges that he's put in, not just the 2 Supreme Court justices, but about 200, and I think we're up to like 230 others. He's been great on all that stuff. So the president is absolutely killing it. I'm proud of him. And not only do I, all the candidates, not only do I support the president, he supports me because he nominated me to a sensitive position back in 2017. Now the Democrats blocked my confirmation, so I wasn't confirmed by the Senate, but I worked in the Trump administration as a political appointee for 15 months. And I've seen what the policies that are coming out of that administration up close and personal. And I'm proud to work alongside of him when he's right.
Well, and I'll just add to this too, with what you're talking about there. I tell people if you're looking for a president that's perfect, you would have never found one in American history. We've had some great presidents. I think we have a great president now. But if you're waiting for someone that's perfect, Jesus Christ is the only perfect person that ever walked this earth. And I tell
That's
people,
right.
It's also important to also try to remind people, because with the Second Amendment movement, for instance, in Virginia, we're seeing some antagonistic views between some members of the VCDL, the Virginia Citizens Defense League, and the NRA, for instance. And I try to remind people, I say, listen, guys, sometimes you have to focus on those bigger issues and put your little differences aside. The NRA versus the VCDL, they go at it very differently, but at the core of it all, they're really fighting for the same thing. So when it comes to our president, I say the same thing. I say, listen, if there are 2 major issues that I'm going to vote on, I'll be completely honest with you, it's abortion and it's the Second Amendment. And so
me too.
Anybody that can vote for, taking away the life from an innocent child, as you said, from any point from conception forward, I have a really hard time supporting that individual because that's just a moral and ethical line that I don't feel comfortable crossing.
Yeah. Can I talk about the NRA, VCDL stuff just for a second? So, I view, I'm going to put it up here. I view the Republican Party as having, it's sort of hard to get it in front of the camera. Here we go. I view the Republican Party as having like 4 fingers, right? Social conservatives, fiscal conservatives, national defense conservatives, and libertarians. And our goal as a party, our goal as in politics should be to do what I'm doing around the state, which is to close those fingers into a fist. Because if we don't unite, the Democrats are going to be totally united around whoever their nominee is. And we need to close those fingers into a fist. And so to the extent that, VCDL and NRA have some different ways of going about the same shared goal, that's ridiculous. And people need to set that stuff aside. It's like, if Lutherans are fighting with Baptists, that's stupid. And we need to stop, because we all need to be fighting against the forces of evil. And so my goal is to close those, is to be a uniter across the party. And then later, honestly, to be a uniter of independents who feel homeless, of some Democrats who feel homeless, and welcome those folks into this movement and say, look, I'm not for taking away anything from you. I'm for giving you back your God-given rights, giving you control of your own life. And who wouldn't want that? I think that's a message of freedom and liberty that should resonate with Americans.
Absolutely. Well, and I love the fact you talk about trying to reach out to some of those people that might be on the fence. I think that's an important message, because I think sometimes we all too often, we all have some natural biases. I think that's just part of life. And we have things we're very passionate about. And sometimes, again, thinking on that line of what it talks about in Corinthians, reaching out to people with a mind of love. I have found all too often that when I talk to some folks, that maybe if we just talk about our passions, we kind of we're different from each other. But when we talk about the things that are core that matter to us, we find a lot of similarities, and it's finding those common things that unite us all that I think really makes us as a country and as a people very, very strong. So I can certainly say that resonates with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we went an hour and 11 minutes. Are there any particular questions? I think we certainly took some along the way. Were there any others, Daniel, you saw you wanted to touch on?
No, I think I'd like to just give a little quick closing statement here and say that, first off, I appreciate this interview. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this greatly. I'll come back anytime and do more of it. Let's build the audience. Let's get this. Let's make this statewide. I'm just a servant. I'm not running to be a king. I'm not running to be some kind of overlord over people like I think Mark Warner sees himself as. I'm just running to be a servant, and I'm going to serve the Constitution, and I'm going to serve my fellow citizens. And that's all I've ever done. Since I was 17, I enlisted in the U.S. Army. I served 25 years in the Army, and paid a heavy cost for that service. I was wounded twice. I lost a leg, and then I kept serving because that's what I do. And then after I retired from the Army, I had a choice to go into private business or to continue to serve. And when the president asked me to serve in his administration, of course, the answer is yes, I served. And that's what I do. And so now I'm running to be a servant. I want to be your servant. And it's going to take some help. It's going to take some help to get there. There's a couple ways you can help. One, please continue to pray for us. My staff is going to post our prayer call, the phone number and everything, but 7:00, it's going to be posted on our Facebook, but 7:00 Friday morning, if you want to jump on the prayer call and hear internal to the campaign what we're praying for, that would be great. So you can pray for us. Two is, you can donate money. And I saw some $25 donations come in. I'm going to keep those because we haven't announced the raffle yet, but you can reapply for your raffle tickets on the 15th of March. But seriously, campaigns are expensive. They take money. They take grassroots stuff, and that's great. I could use donations. You can smash the donate button on our website. And then the third thing is pretty soon, in the next day or two, I hope, we're going to have a how you can help tab on the website. And there's some things you can do. Well, right now you can go on the website and sign up to be a volunteer, and then we'll reach out to you as the phone calls and door knocking and emailing and texting begin to be part of it. But I'd love to have your volunteer help because Mark Warner's going to come into this with a gigantic pile of money. Nobody really loves him, but he has $20 million probably to blow on this race. I don't have $20 million, but what I do have is passionate people like Bill Willis and hopefully Angie R. and Dustin Carter and Dylan and you and Noah Taylor. And let's do this together, guys. Let's go smash this race. And, an army of us can take back Virginia for liberty and take back Virginia for our shared values. And I can fight for those values, and I'm proud to do it. I'm proud to be your servant. Absolutely. No. And, Daniel, one other thing I think you have on your side is whenever you stand by innocent children,
whenever you stand by babies in this unfortunate world that we have in our society where babies are being slaughtered, God's behind you as well. And I really firmly believe that. So I just want to share a verse of scripture. It's out of Ephesians. It was something that touched my heart on the way this morning to the Board of Services meeting, but it's Ephesians chapter 6, and it's verse 11. And it says, "Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." And, I think that's something that we are certainly facing in our society right now. When we think about going out, guys, for all of our viewers, guys, you are the ones that are going to be the grassroots efforts that are going to be able to help folks like Daniel get up before us, for us, and represent us at the national level, at the federal level. And guys, even for our state level folks and anywhere else I know we've got a lot of viewers that are out of state. So guys, remember this in your state as well. Find folks like Daniel that will fight for your rights. They are servant leaders. They believe in the Constitution. They believe in your God-given rights. And reach out to those people. Find out ways you can help out. Certainly, you can hit the donate button. Guys, some of the very most simple things we can do, if nothing else, if you don't have the money to donate, share their campaign, share their Twitter, share their Facebook, talk to people about it. Help spread the word. You may not be able to put those donations out there, but maybe you can reach out to people. And so actively being that grassroots efforts, I'm a firm believer that's very, very strong. And Daniel, after ever hearing everything about it, I know God's behind you. So if you don't have anything else, I'll close us out with a word of prayer, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Thank you, brother.
Okay. And afterwards, by the way, we'll say a few more closing comments, and we'll stay online, and we'll wrap it up backstage here. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and go to
okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to thank you, Lord, for this evening, Lord. Thank you for this absolutely enjoyable opportunity, Lord, to have some fellowship, Lord, and talk to Daniel, Lord, and reach out to all of the folks across the county, across the Commonwealth, Lord, and all across our great republic and around the world that might have been watching tonight. Father, Lord, I just want to ask that you would watch over everybody, Lord, that has any needs and illnesses or anything that may be on their heart, Lord. I have a personal special prayer for a close friend who's going through a divorce, Lord. I know he's having a rough time, Father. I'd ask that you'd watch over him as well. Father, we all have hearts. We all have things in our hearts and our minds and needs and desires. And Lord, as I always say, you know those from the time that you put, from the moment you put time into motion, before there was even thought, before there was anything, Lord, you knew what those were. God, I just ask that you put your special healing touch on those. Father, I want to again just thank you for this opportunity, Lord. I want to ask, Lord, that you put a special blessing over Daniel Gade and his campaign, Father. Lord, he is fighting for the rights that you gave for us, Father. And Lord, as it says in your word, that, if God is for us, then who can stand against us, Lord? And Lord, it's prayer warriors like all those that are watching, Lord, that we can send up our prayers. Lord, I'm a firm believer in the power of prayer. Let's all pray for Daniel. Let's send him to strength. Let's make sure that the armor of God is put on him as he moves forward. And God, let us all find it in our hearts and our minds to have that service mentality like Daniel, to also help serve, Lord. And let's join that campaign. Let's push this forward. And God, let's do this so that we can protect our God-given rights. We can protect life. And Lord, we can make this world something that, we can all certainly feel better about and know represents you more better. God, I just ask that, as always, anything that we ever say and do be what you would have us to say, Lord, and all of the folks that hear, Lord, whatever your will be, we hope that is what they heard. We hope that the message tonight is something that glorifies you. And Lord, we just ask that you bless us in all of our endeavors. All these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Oh, Nikki Summy, if you're still on. Are you still on? Nikki, I saw those two $25 donations come in. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. And also Brenda Sims, I saw your $25 as well. I know what that's for. I'll get you those. I'll get you entered into the thing. I was just kidding earlier. But it hasn't started yet, so no more 25. Let's just make those 50s, and then I'll spend those wisely in the meantime. Thanks, everybody.
That sounds good. So, Daniel, just hang on a minute. We'll end the broadcast out, guys. Listen, I always end by saying, listen, guys, out there, stay safe, fight the good fight, keep your firearms close. But, guys, always keep God closer. Guys, smash that like button. We'd appreciate any shares. And also for tonight, guys, be sure to get out to Daniel's website, his Facebook page, his Twitter page. Share that out. Guys, reach us far and wide. Let's see how many people we can go. Let's keep the grassroots going. And until next time, guys, thank you all and God bless. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.